Most people think tornadoes are tornadoes. Big wind, big damage, run to the basement. But the difference between the weakest tornado and the strongest is not a matter of degree. It is the difference between a fallen tree branch and an entire town erased from the map. Most people have no idea where one level ends and the next begins. These are the 7 levels of tornadoes. By the end of this, you will understand exactly what each one can do, what survival actually looks like at every stage, and why the top of this scale terrifies even the scientists who study them for a living. Level 1, EF0, the ones you drive past. An EF0 tornado has wind speeds between 65 and 85 miles per hour. That sounds dangerous, and technically it is. But in practice, an EF0 is the tornado equivalent of a fender bender. It snaps branches off trees. It peels shingles off roofs. It might knock over your trash cans and send your patio furniture into the neighbor's yard. About half of all tornadoes recorded in the United States fall into this category. Here's what most people get wrong about EF0s. They assume these are baby tornadoes that grow up into monsters. They are not. Most tornadoes are born weak and die weak. An EF0 does not dream of becoming an EF5. It lives its entire life in under 10 minutes, touches down, scuffs up a field or a parking lot, and disappears. The reason EF0s matter is volume. They happen constantly. The United States averages over 1,200 tornadoes per year, and the majority of them are EF0s and EF1s that never make the evening news. You have probably driven past the aftermath of one without even realizing it. Level 2, EF1. Now it gets your attention. Wind speeds jump to 86 to 110 miles per hour. An EF1 will rip sections of roof off a house, push mobile homes off their foundations, flip cars that are already moving, and turn garden sheds into airborne debris. This is the level where people start getting hurt, not from the wind directly, but from what the wind picks up and throws. About 35% of all tornadoes fall in the EF0 to EF1 range combined, and they account for the majority of tornado-related injuries, not because they are the most powerful, but because they are the most common, and people underestimate them. An EF1 does not look particularly dramatic on camera. It does not have the massive wedge shape that makes the news. Sometimes it barely looks like anything at all, just a dark smudge under a cloud. People see that and think they have time. They do not always have time. The practical takeaway at level 2 is simple. If a tornado warning is issued for your area, treat it seriously, even if the sky does not look apocalyptic. The tornadoes that hurt the most people are the ones nobody expected to be dangerous. Level 3, EF2. This is where property damage stops being an inconvenience and starts being a disaster. Winds range from 111 to 135 miles per hour. An EF2 tears roofs off well-constructed houses. Not just shingles. The entire roof structure, rafters and all, lifts off and scatters. Large trees snap at the trunk rather than bending. Cars get picked up and thrown short distances. Box stores and strip malls lose their walls. Roughly 10% of all tornadoes reach EF2. That might sound rare, but spread across a typical year, the United States sees over 100 of them. The damage is severe enough that neighborhoods hit by EF2 tornadoes often take 6 months to a year to fully rebuild. Insurance adjusters earn their paychecks at this level. Here's the thing nobody tells you about EF2 tornadoes. This is the threshold where your house stops protecting you in certain rooms. If you are in an interior room on the lowest floor, you are still statistically safe. But if you are near windows, in a mobile home, or on an upper floor, an EF2 can kill you. The jump from EF1 to EF2 is not just stronger wind, it is a fundamentally different threat to human life. EF2 is where storm chasers start backing off their intercept distance. If the professionals are giving it more space, you should be underground. Level 4, EF3. This is where tornadoes become genuinely terrifying. Winds between 136 and 165 miles per hour. An EF3 does not damage houses. It destroys them. Exterior walls collapse. Upper floors disintegrate. Well-built structures are stripped to their foundation in seconds. Cars become missiles. Trees are not just snapped, but debarked. The bark literally stripped off by wind-driven debris. Only about 4% of tornadoes reach EF3, but they account for a disproportionate share of fatalities. The tornado that hit Joplin, Missouri in 2011 was rated EF5, but it spent much of its path at EF3 intensity. And that alone was enough to level entire blocks. An EF3 path can be a mile wide and stretch for dozens of miles. If you are enjoying this breakdown, hit subscribe. I cover extreme weather and science every week. Now we get into the levels that rewrite geography. Level 5, EF4. Welcome to the category that changes how you think about wind. EF4. Tornadoes produce winds between 166 and 200 miles per hour. At this speed, well-constructed homes are completely leveled. Not collapsed, not heavily damaged. Leveled. The debris is thrown so far from the original structure that it becomes difficult to tell where one house ended and another began. Cars are hurled hundreds of yards. Steel-reinforced structures sustain serious damage. Large sections of apartment buildings simply vanish. Fewer than 1% of all tornadoes reach EF4. When they do, they create war-zone landscapes that aerial footage cannot fully convey. The 2013 Moore, Oklahoma tornado was an EF5, but the surrounding EF4 damage zone stretched far wider than the EF5 core, flattening neighborhoods across a path 1.3 miles wide. Here is what most people get wrong about EF4. They think the damage is caused by wind speed alone. It is not. At EF4 intensity, the tornado is carrying so much debris that the air itself becomes a weapon. The wind is not just pushing against your house. It is sandblasting it with fragments of every other house it has already destroyed. Engineers call this the debris loading effect, and it means that the actual destructive force of an EF4 is significantly greater than raw wind speed would suggest. A concrete safe room or underground shelter is not optional at this level. It is the only reliable path to survival. Level 6, EF5. The maximum rating on the Enhanced Fujita Scale. Winds above 200 miles per hour, with no upper limit. An EF5 does not just destroy structures, it scours the earth. Foundations are ripped out of the ground. Asphalt is peeled off roads. The ground itself is gouged inches deep. Steel and concrete buildings, the kind designed to survive hurricanes, sustain catastrophic damage. In the damage path of an EF5, the landscape afterward looks like the surface of another planet. Trees are reduced to stripped stumps. Houses are reduced to bare slabs. Entire neighborhoods become unrecognizable. EF5 tornadoes are extraordinarily rare. Since the Enhanced Fujita Scale was adopted in 2007, only a handful have been recorded. The 2011 Joplin tornado killed 158 people and caused nearly $3 billion in damage. The 2013 El Reno tornado in Oklahoma was 2.6 miles wide, the widest tornado ever recorded, though it was officially rated EF3 because its path mostly crossed open land. The uncomfortable truth about EF5 is that the rating might actually be insufficient. The scale has no upper boundary. An EF5 at 205 miles per hour and an EF5 at 295 miles per hour receive the same rating, but they are not the same event. Some researchers have argued for decades that the scale needs additional categories, because once everything is destroyed, the damage indicators that the Enhanced Fujita Scale relies on become useless. You cannot rate wind speed by structural damage when there are no structures left to evaluate. Level 7, beyond the scale. We have officially left the realm of weather and entered the territory of theoretical physics and historical mythology. The original Fujita scale, created by Ted Fujita in 1971, actually extended to F12. Not because anyone expected to see those wind speeds on Earth, but because Fujita was a scientist who believed in complete frameworks. F12 corresponded to Mach 1, the speed of sound, about 738 miles per hour. No tornado has ever come close to that. The upper reaches of what tornadoes can actually produce remain poorly understood. The fastest wind speed ever directly measured near a tornado was 301 miles per hour during the 1999 Bridge Creek and Moore tornado in Oklahoma. That measurement came from a Doppler on wheels radar unit, and even that number carries uncertainty. The instrument was not inside the tornado. It was measuring from outside, which means the actual peak winds at ground level may have been higher. Here's what makes level 7 genuinely unsettling. We do not actually know the upper limit of tornado wind speed. It remains unknown. We know the theoretical maximum based on thermodynamic models, which most researchers place somewhere between 300 and 350 miles per hour. But we have never had instruments survive inside the most violent cores. The few probes that have been placed in tornado paths were either missed by the strongest winds or destroyed before transmitting data. We are measuring the most powerful atmospheric phenomenon on the planet with educated guesses and wreckage patterns. Simulations suggest that under perfect atmospheric conditions, a supercell thunderstorm could theoretically produce winds exceeding 350 miles per hour. That would create a tornado capable of scouring topsoil down to bedrock and turning vehicles into unrecognizable metal fragments scattered over miles. Whether such an event has ever occurred is unknown. If it happened in an unpopulated area, which is statistically likely given how much of the Great Plains is empty land, nobody would have been there to measure it. The evidence would be a strange patch of bare earth that researchers might never find. So where does that leave the average person living in tornado country? The practical reality is that your preparation should focus on levels 3 through 5. EF0 and EF1 tornadoes are survivable in almost any structure. EF2 and above demand an interior room on the lowest floor, away from windows. EF3 and above mean you want a basement, a storm shelter, or a reinforced safe room. Have a plan before you need one. Know where your nearest shelter is. Keep shoes near your bed because post-tornado debris fields are full of nails and glass. Have a weather radio or a reliable app with alerts enabled. The average lead time for a tornado warning is 13 minutes. That is enough time to reach safety if you already know where safety is. It is not enough time to figure it out. The tornadoes that kill people are not always the biggest ones. They are the ones that catch people unprepared, at night, in mobile homes, in cars, or simply in denial that it could happen to them. The best tornado plan is the one you never have to use. But if you do have to use it, nothing else you own will matter more. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you want more deep dives like this, and I will see you in the next one.